Hi everyone. I wanted to jump on here and reintroduce myself in a little nutshell. Some of you have been following on for a while now, and my work is always evolving. I also want to use this as an opportunity to invite you to a mid-year masterclass that is coming up that I would love some help sharing. But my name is Jin Ong, and I come from the physical therapy world. So I came straight out of school into university. I studied osteopathy and I worked as an osteopath for about 15 years. And then I got into the world of emotions, energetics, the metaphysical world, and got really interested working with people's deeper traumas and experiences that were playing out in their physical body, mental, behavioral, and energetic world. So, this is now everything that I do. I work with one-to-one clients, I run groups for the general public, and I also work with practitioners. But to go into a little bit more detail, the one-to-one clients that I tend to attract, not always, but are ones who have been through the conventional and the alternative world, and they're not really getting the results that they're after. And then they start thinking, well, maybe my history, the experiences I've been through, and the emotions that I'm storing in my body might be playing a part in why I'm presenting the way I am and why I'm not getting the results or resolution that I'm expecting or what I'm after. So I also teach my work about processing emotions to the general public in the release course, and I also teach practitioners how it is they can integrate more of the world of emotions, energetics, the metaphysical world into their practical practice. So I would love to share with you a mid-year masterclass that I have coming up called Mind the Gap on Thursday, 13th of July at 11 a.m. New Zealand time. And I'd love your help sharing this because recently I have shared a couple of videos on my YouTube that I've shared to my social media on Facebook and Instagram, and they've been flagged. So my account has been flagged, which means my stuff is not being shown. And maybe me even talking about this right now might get this flagged, but I'll trust and I'll hope that the right people see this. So you might have seen some of the graphics come up inviting you to the Mind the Gap Masterclass, and I wanted to jump on here and share with you what it's about because it may or may not make sense to you. So I'm going to read the little intro or the text that came to me. And every time I run masterclasses or any of my courses, something just lands for me and it all of a sudden makes so much sense. So I like people to feel into my work. That's the most important thing for me. And some of you might have no idea what I'm talking about, and that's okay. I just trust that it's part of where you're at on your journey, and when the message needs to land, it will land. So mind the gap. The gap in the pain, the event happens, the news hits, then comes the waiting. Will I ever get better? What if it doesn't work? What if it all goes wrong? What if it's cancer? What if I'm dying? How do you desire to navigate the gap in the pain? The real question is, are you ready to make the most of the gap in between the pain? You reflect, you decide to change, you gain momentum, document the milestones, make moves, anchor in the celebrations. Life speeds up in the gap between the pain. Are you ready to make the most of it? Hold it all, create. Your best ideas are yet to come. Then the gap in the pain becomes one of the best places to be because you know what's coming and it's good. So just feel into it. And this is what I'm going to be talking more about on the masterclass, but I wanted to give you a little bit of information here. So I used to think that there was only one gap that I noticed for many, many years. And the example that I used here, which is quite typical and you might have had experiences with, is when someone goes to have something tested or biopsied, or they need to go to the doctor because something's not quite right. And so they get this test, and then all of a sudden they wait in this gap. Now, some people sit in the gap before they even get themselves to a medical centre because they fear all the things that are going wrong and they don't actually want to find out. But the gap is, in this example, that you go and get a test result, and you might have to wait a week or 2 weeks or a few months before that result comes back. You might actually have to wait a week, a few weeks, or a few months before you can even get the test, and then another few months after that before you get the results. And so this is what I call the gap in between the pain, where the mind just spirals and goes downhill and thinks of all of the worst case scenarios that could play out. And for a lot of people, it's really not a pleasant place to be. And then I recognized that there was a second gap. So in the gap in the pain, so many people spiral, and a handful will say, okay, if this thing works, if I get better, if it heals, if the test result is clear, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And then I find that when everything is right, everything heals, everything works, the test result is clear, what I find is that people then don't honor that commitment that they said to themselves in the gap in the pain. And they don't follow through with all the things and all the stuff they would have done or the way they would have lived life when they found out that everything was okay. So this is then the second gap, the gap in between the pain. And this is where I want people to make the most of it. So this was just a realization that I had, and why I'm so excited to share it with you on the Mind the Gap Masterclass, is this gap in between the pain is when we honor our commitment of all the things that we said we would do if everything was okay, and then we utilize that energy in the gap in between the pain. So right now I am sitting in a gap in between the pain, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I have learned how to identify which gap I'm in. I have definitely been in gaps in between the pain, and I know that there are going to be more gaps in between the pain coming for me. And I absolutely love what comes after, which is the gap in between the pain. So the thing is that I mentioned there's going to be more gaps in the pain that are coming for me. They're just like challenges. They're what help us grow. That's what helps us stretch. It's what increases our resilience and lets us know what we're capable of. And I now look forward to experiencing these gaps, the gap in the pain, because I know good things are always going to come afterwards. But what I've had to learn is to accept and surrender in that gap, or what some people call the void. Now, I will say that I'm lucky, or for whatever reason, I've been able to experience small gaps of sometimes hours, days, weeks. And then the gaps or the voids in the pain have progressively gotten longer. Now, I know that some people experience gaps and voids that go on for many, many years. But thankfully, I've been able to build up slowly. And my most recent gap or void that I experienced went for a whole 9 months, which is probably the longest I've ever experienced. But my gosh, now that I'm in the gap in between the pain, I am making the most of it. And I have even more trust that the next time I might be navigating a gap in between the pain, that good things are going to come. When I can be at peace, when I can accept the gap in the pain and surrender and accept. Lots of big things. So I would love to share with you on this live masterclass, Thursday, 13th of July at 11 a.m. New Zealand time, all about Mind the Gap, these two different gaps, the gap in between the pain and the gap in the pain, and how it is you can optimize both of these gaps and navigate them so that you can actually look forward to them and trust that good things are going to come. So if you can, help me share this live masterclass, Mind the Gap. I would really, really appreciate it. You can either reach out to me and ask me for the link, or it will be posted in show notes in various places. With my masterclasses, some of them are free and some of them are paid. This masterclass will be a free one, but it will only be free with a replay for a limited time before it turns into a paid masterclass. So, if you are keen to come live, I would love to riff with you. I'm open to you asking questions. I'm going to be sharing a lot more examples because right now, with where I'm at on my journey with my work in the world of metaphysics, the metaphysical world, the emotional, the energetic, and the spiritual world, I see everything as one. So I might use an example like getting a test result, but you can sit in gaps in business, you can sit in gaps in relationships, and multiple areas of your life. So if this resonates with you, if this speaks to you, I would love you to register and come to the Mind the Gap free masterclass. You will get the replay. It will stay up for a handful of weeks and then it will turn into a paid masterclass. I do recommend getting access to it because every time you listen to it, depending on where you're at on your journey, the message will land differently. So I hope to see you there live next week.